Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Poorboys Little Homestead. As always, if it's your first time here, thanks for dropping in. Feel free to drop in anytime you feel, my friends. Guys, today what we got here is a diesel heater. Now, diesel heaters has been around a long time, but I personally haven't never owned a diesel heater. So we got us a little diesel heater. This here's a what they call the park model. Now, you can get diesel heaters in 2.0 kW, 5 kW, and 8 kW. Or these like this anyways. But from my understanding, diesel heaters, you know, they've been around for years. But apparently, some time ago, they lost the patent on it or let the patent expire or whatever. I don't understand how all that works. But anyway, the Chinese started making these, and a lot of people call these Chinese diesel heaters. And now you can buy them for affordable prices. Now, what comes along with affordable prices, of course, is some things that may not be as good as your higher price original diesel heaters, which they still sell out there on the market. But these little diesel heaters, they can be used to heat your camper, your tent, your workshop like this. I'm going to attach a pictures here a little later on how people's got them. You can set them up outside and heat your camper, and people use them camping, heating their tents like I said. And the big thing with these diesel heaters nowadays is these people with these buses and vans that's turning them kind of DIYing them into motor homes and travel vehicles, and a lot of them live out of them. They got these diesel heaters, which this one here comes already in the little box here, and that's all the components that's in this. I'm going to attach a picture right here. If you see that picture, you can buy this, not in this case, and then you can, if you're going to permanently put it in your camper trailer or travel trailer or in a vehicle or something, that's the one you would want to purchase. But with me, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it other than heat my workshop. May try heating my greenhouse with it this winter. If I do, y'all see some more videos about it. But right now, we more or less just getting it out, looking at it. And guys, like I said, I got this from VEVOR. This is VEVOR, but you can buy them from Amazon. And this one here is the VEVOR. It's got car parking heater, fuel, diesel, model WF5001, rated voltage 12 volt 40 watts, because you gotta have a 12 volt battery to run it, or 12 volt power. And the heating power is to 5 kW on this one. The little fuel tank's built inside. I ain't sure exactly how much it holds, probably close to 1 gallon of fuel. We're gonna get around to that here in a moment. But guys, before we start setting this up, I'm finna do something I normally don't do before I make sure a product works. I've done a little research on these things, and there's some things in here I want to check out. So we're going to do these screws right here and pop this cover, and then we're going to get a little better look at how this is put together, and a couple things I want to look at while I'm in there, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Got one more screw to take out right here. We'll just set that over to the side. Now guys, at this point, I'm going to attach another picture up. This is where you can get, this is the parking model. Then they got the two other models. The one I was saying that you wouldn't want to buy this in the case, you would buy this, the heater, and all of this separate, the pump if you was going to permanently install this into a camper trailer, a bus, van, etc. But you can see this is nothing more than just a case. This is the heater right here, which they got it inside a plastic box. This is the little fuel tank. There's your little fuel hose. Now that right there is what I was wanting to look at. They ain't got no fuel filter. So I want to put me a fuel filter on here. Guys, this is the fuel pump. Now how this pump works, it has to be on an angle because it's a piston driven pump. Again, I'm going to stop right here and attach y'all a picture of a cutaway of this. Now as you can see in that cutaway picture, that's a piston driven pump, electrical. It runs off electric and sends out pulses, and it shoots that piston up, and it shoots the little spurt of diesel into this heater. Now one of the things a lot of people don't like about these, especially if they install them in their campers or in their vans or stuff, these pumps make a clicking noise every pulse. And why it is, if you'll go look at this picture again, that cylinder is metal, so every time it clicks, that's metal against metal. It's so a lot of people will take this pump right here, and you can wrap it in something. This is just a piece of foam I got right here. You could wrap that around it, especially if you installing this, guys, into your camper or something. Now, I ain't worried about it with this one because this ain't going to be installed permanently in my camper or nothing else. But I do want to see if I got a fuel filter before I ever start. And see if I can put a fuel filter in here. But that is all it is to it. The little fuel tank, the fuel pump, the heater itself, and of course the control panel. We'll get to the control panel when we get this all ready to start assembling our exhaust pipe and such on it. But that's all it is to show you to the inside of one. Got a pretty long the little fuel line right here. Nothing more than a little plastic line. So if I'm gonna put a fuel filter, I'm trying to see where I might could do that. And another reason I wanted to take this apart before I ever started, because I have seen some people on YouTube, they get these and it wouldn't run and they take them apart. And y'all see how tight fitting this is? With this little plastic hose, over time of being shipped and stuff would be kinked off. So I wanted to take it apart and look. Again, before I ever put fuel in it. But what I don't see is where I can put a fuel filter that'll fit, especially with that little hose. Now up under the bottom here is where we're going to be hooking up the exhaust pipe. And then the air inlet. And that's another thing we got to watch. You see how that fuel line is routed? We don't want that touching the exhaust pipe. So that's some of the stuff that the little engineering on this ain't so great that you can do something about and change it up so it won't be touching your fuel line. So again, that's why I wanted to take this apart before we ever get started. Now still, for the money, I can't rightly remember the exact price, but I think this was around $150. But before they started making these Chinese diesel heaters, they call them, a diesel heater would cost you up there, the same little thing you see right here, would it be up there around $1,000 or more. But the workmanship of it and assembly of it was a little bit better. To word like this, like I'm saying, you need to open it up and check, make sure your line ain't crimped, you ain't got no fuel filter, and that kind of thing. So, I don't know what I'm finna do here, but somehow I want to put a fuel filter in this and reroute this hose before I ever get started. So first I'm gonna go see if I got a fuel filter that'll fit on this that I can make work, and I'll get right back with y'all. Okay guys, I did have a fuel filter, but mine is too big. It'll fit in this black hose, but it ain't gonna be enough room to put that unless I turn that going up and down, and then I don't think it's gonna have enough pressure to pump up through there. What I need is one of them little bitty narrow filters like on a weed eater or something other. So what we're gonna do is put this back together. That way I can go on and assemble this thing and hook it up, and then later on I'm gonna get me a fuel filter and put on here. Cause I don't like nothing that you put fuel in to not have a filter, cause you gonna get trash in it sometime or another. Especially if you're using this out around camps or anywhere that you're using it on a regular basis, putting fuel in it. So we're gonna see if we can get this hose turned a little differently than they had it. Right there, it ain't got no kink in it. But I don't want it touching this hot terminal up here. See, that's another thing you need to take it apart and look at. That's too close to being at that terminal. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a zip tie and I'm gonna zip tie this right over here out of the way. And again, guys, this is why you want to take these apart and look at them. Now the Park model here, you had to take the screws out to take the lid off. But the other model, again, I'll attach a picture. That model, I think it just unclips with clips and you can take the top off without removing screws, but you still need to do it before you ever start. Make sure ain't no wires gonna be touching your electrical terminals where you hook your battery there. So I'm gonna zip tie them over here out of the way to hold them off. Keep them away. See, your tank's just sitting in there. It ain't fastened down or nothing. So that's why you want to double check all this stuff. There we go. I think we're good to go right there now. No, we ain't good to go. Here's something else. Y'all see this fuel tank sitting down here? Well, when I put this top back on here and I stick that screw in there, the end of this little sharp screw, that tank can be sitting there rubbing on it and can rub a hole in it. It looks like the only one that could do that would be this one right here on the bottom. So what am I finna do? I'm finna simplest. I got a little piece of wood right there that fits right in there that'll keep that tank from sliding over against there. Now guys, when I take this back apart to put my fuel filter on, I'm going to do something a little different right there also. But that's things you need to look at. That's the deal. That's the deal with these heaters. It ain't that they ain't good heaters. They say they work good, put out great heat, and we're going to get around to doing that. But this is things you want to look at before you ever start. Because that screw right there, I guarantee you, this thing vibrating wouldn't last long. It'd have a hole in that fuel tank. Alright guys, the next thing, we're going to start assembling it. Well, as you can see, this thing sets pretty close to the floor here. Well, for your exhaust pipe, you want the least amount of bends you can get and not as sharp a bends as you can get by with. So until I decide what I'm going to do with this heater and how I'm going to be using it, I'm going to take these 2x4 blocks and we're going to screw them on there for legs just to raise it up for temporary. Now how this may work out permanently, and this may be after I decide what I'm going to do with this heater for the most part. I may change this or come back and put some metal legs or something. But for right now, we're finna screw these little 2x4s on there. So that can be our legs. See, they got holes in them to be mounted, because if you was gonna mount this, just say if I was gonna mount this in my travel trailer, you could mount it, screw that to the floor, and then you gonna drill a hole. You'd have to drill a hole through your floor so you could run your exhaust and your outside vent under your trailer. But if I was going to do that, I wouldn't choose the part model. I would choose the model that doesn't come in a box like this, and then you can mount it, because you would want your fuel pump mounted. Most people mount them up under their trailer within the frame, or if they in a van or little bus that they convert into motorhomes, they would mount all of that up under the bus. And that's what I would do if I was going to mount this in my camper permanently. And guys, a lot of people, if the vehicle they mount them in runs off of diesel, some of them hooks it straight to their fuel tank, so they ain't got to fill up their little fuel tank here. Now these things is supposed to run about 8 hours to 10 hours on about a gallon of diesel fuel, which is pretty good. So what's next? We're gonna see if we can lay it over on the side here. And we got clamps. Look like, I don't know, they sent 6 of these screws. Oh, two of them for them brackets. See, they even sent screws here. I could have used to screw that to them 2x4s that they send with you to screw this down wherever you gonna mount. Now, I'm gonna look in the manual for a moment, and we gotta figure out which one of these is the exhaust and which one of them is the air intake. Hopefully that one back there that fuel line's touching is the air intake, but if it ain't, we're gonna have to reroute that fuel line again, so I may have to take it back apart. If I can't get enough, no, I can get enough slack, I can pull it down and zip tie it. Let me see if I can figure out which one of these that's the air inlet. The little manual here is diagram picture so blurred you can't hardly read it. Kind of got to just figure it out. Okay, so it looks like, guys, it looked like the one toward the front of the heater, where your control panel and where your heat's going to be blowing out. The one toward the front is going to be your exhaust pipe. And see, for me to use this, it's still going to have to be bent. But that's why I wanted to put legs on it, because I didn't want to bend no sharp 90-degree turn. I want to make me a long 90. So it wouldn't restrict. On a diesel heater, you can't restrict the exhaust, and you can't restrict the inflow, and you can't restrict your heat duct going out. And I'm going to give you some advice. If you're going to use a duct and set this outside, like outside your tent or camper, and you're going to use a long duct like a dryer vent or something, you better make sure it's straightened out and it ain't restricting that flow, because if it restricts that flow, it's going to mess up how your heater works. You can't have no restrictions, which that's common sense. It's working off of that combustion of the air and the combustion of the fuel mixture. So any kind of restriction will affect that. Now, I got the exhaust on there. But I'm gonna have to use some kind of little ratchet or something to stick up in there to tighten this up. Alright, guys. I'm gonna put that on there. We'll see if I can get this little ratchet in there. I'm gonna have to turn this around until I tighten this up. Y'all ain't gonna be able to see this, I don't think. I'm gonna bring y'all over here so you can see what I'm doing. But to tighten this clamp, you gotta get a little ratchet and stick down in there to tighten that clamp, because you ain't got no room. I said that, guys. I'm telling you that. But they did leave a slot right here through the side of this that you can stick a screwdriver through and tighten that clamp. Look at there. But since I already got my clamp started, I'm gonna go and finish tightening it up with this wrench. But I I give them kudos for that, thinking about that, because they left access so you can tighten the clamp. So now, guys, I'm gonna put a zip tie right around that. Even though this is the air intake, I'm gonna put a zip tie right around this. To hold that fuel line from touching that air intake. Now here again, if I was mounting this permanently in a vehicle or something, this air intake you're gonna have run up under your vehicle or through the floor or wherever. I wouldn't use this little thin, see how that squeezes real easy? I would buy another, like this exhaust pipe that's made of metal. You can buy another piece of it or extension, or you can come up with some other pipe that'll work. I would buy a piece of that, because if this is under your vehicle and rock flies up and hits it, it can restrict your air coming in and therefore could malfunction the heater or burn it up, or it won't work at all. Get down, Drake. Drake over there trying to drink my tall coffee off the table, little lad. All right. Guys, until I figure out exactly what I'm going to do with this heater, I got my air intake, and this is the air intake for the combustion chamber. This is the air intake that it's going to be sucking in air and blowing out the hot air into your tin or wherever you're using it. But still, if you want your exhaust, you don't want your exhaust run back here and it be sucking the exhaust air right back in. So if you, like I said, if I was hooking this up permanent, I would get different lines so I could really route this into different places. You don't want them coming out side by side. That right there is nothing more than just a little plastic. It's got a little screen in it. That way intake couldn't suck no leaf or piece of paper or something up in there, because if it does, it's going to catch on fire up in there. Stop it up. So that's all that is. It's just a filter. On the other side, for the exhaust, it comes with a little muffler. I don't know if y'all can see through there, but if you look through there, it looks just like a muffler in a car. Got little baffles in it. That'll help with the exhaust. got a little bracket on it right here. In case you mounting this somewhere permanent, you could mount that under your vehicle, and then you could get another piece of pipe and run it on wherever you want it to. But for me, we just gonna run ours straight up in the air like that right there, or let it just kick over to the side. This is your little brackets that comes with for your pipe, so you can fasten it up wherever you want it. And the last thing, guys, is 2 clamps and your vent. Now, if you was putting this in your travel trailer or something or other, again, I wouldn't buy the one in the box, because you can mount all this up under the bed or in the cabinet somewhere out of the way. Vent it through the floor for your exhaust and your inlet. Have your fuel line going outside with your pump, and mount your little tank somewhere outside convenient to fill it. Then coming out of your cabinet, you would attach your vent pipe, and you would probably have to buy a longer vent pipe, but it comes with the end that you would cut a hole through like in your cabinet. And your travel trailers, just like the one you see behind me, the heat that's in there right now has got little vents just like this, comes out of the cabinet, got little hoses just like this. It goes to the furnace for the heat. But if you got an old camper like my old hunting camper, I could just cut a hole in that cabinet, vent this right to it just like that. So just so I won't lose this, I'm gonna just put this, because I tighten it up just so it won't fall off and me lose it. Now see, guys, if I want to heat this shed right here with it that we working in, this is gonna be sitting outside. Now I'm gonna just cut me a little 3-inch hole right through that wall, run this vent right through that wall, and it's just gonna be blowing hot air in here. So once you turn it on, which outside my shed's got a cover over the back, so it's gonna be sitting under a cover back there anyway. Also, it comes with a remote control. I guess you can turn it on and off. Like I said, we get to that a little later down the road. We ain't got it hooked up and fuel put in it, and the battery hooked up. Then you gotta prime the pump. Since it's the first time it's got fuel in it, we're gonna have to prime it before you fire it up. All right. So now we set up to that point. Now somewhere with me moving it around, I done lost a little knob here. It's on the floor somewhere, so let me see if I can find it. And then we're gonna hook the wires up. And this is the wire, the hot and the positive, that goes to a 12-volt supply, which I got a 12-volt battery sitting here. But one thing that they didn't send with this is a fuse link. So I'm gonna look and see if I can come up with a fuse, see if I got one around here, to put a fuse in my line, because I don't like the idea of running this to that without having a fuse, because if something go wrong, it can mess your control panel up.